Welcome to Combos with Mortgage Peeps, presented by Learn to Lend. I'm Bobby Hansen, and today I'm conversating with Brady Thomas, mortgage advisor and area sales manager with LaSalle Mortgage, based in Oakland, California, where he serves clients throughout the Bay Area. Brady has been in the industry for 15 years. He's a top producing loan officer with over 1,000 five-star reviews. He's built a huge presence on Instagram with over 28,000 followers through @TikTok Mortgage. Be sure to like and follow, where he shares videos breaking down the industry and really just making mortgage cool again. He's a dad, he's a seasoned pro, and he has the best hat collections ever. And so I brought my hat today to
Nice.
be part of the club. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss anything. So welcome, Brady.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, well, we are
The
so
hat.
excited to have you.
Yeah.
So I had to bring out my hat because that is one thing that I can see in all of your videos. And I need to get the name of your hat guy because I have this one hat that I wear all the time and I need some new hats. So we'll have to get some links for that.
That works great. I have a number of hat locations that I purchased from over the years. So depending on where you are, there's one close by, I'm sure.
Okay, well, I am seriously going to. I was following this guy on social media, and he like makes these fancy hats, and they're like $2,000.
Yeah. Some of
The
them
good
can
hats are really expensive, but
yeah.
okay, I digress. This is not the hat show. But let's go ahead and dive in. As you know, Learn to Lend is all about our newest loan officers, people that are thinking about getting in the industry, or maybe they just passed their NMLS test. And so I think it is so interesting to start with how the heck you got into the business.
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of people, I got into it because I had family who was in the mortgage space. So, out of college, I worked selling commercial real estate for a few years, 5 years. I hated that job. It was all cold calling and terrible interruption-based selling. Like I would have to, knock doors basically 4 or 5 hours a day. Um, but I learned how to sell. I did learn how to talk through rejection and have thick skin. And so through a number of things happening, my dad got really ill in 2010, and I moved home to help my mom with his care. My mom was a mortgage lender, and so I was going to go work with her for 6 months with her. What was social media? It wasn't even social media at that time. It was like her Facebook page and website. And I remember maybe a couple months in, um, having this realization. I was like, wait, hold on. You mean to tell me all you have to do is provide amazing service to these buyers? And the real estate agents will send you deal after deal. Like you don't have to go knock doors to find the next transaction. It's just going to get referred to you by somebody who's right there with the buyers. And my mom was like, yeah, that I guess so. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, show me how this works. What is that over there? That's a calculator. Like, how does this amortization thing work? And so I got interested in it because of that. I saw the opportunity and I recognized, the people I was in community with, the people who were in the office with me, they didn't have PhDs, they didn't have advanced degrees, and they were making 6 and 7 figures. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna try to make this work. So that was my
Yeah.
entry into the industry.
So was your mom like your first mentor? Or was she like somebody you need to mentor with someone else? We're too close to this.
No, I worked with her. And her rule was, look, you're gonna make every mistake, but just make it once. And just go out and do it. And so it kind of just I didn't work with her long because my dad passed away in 2012. And at that point, my mom was done. She didn't want to work anymore. She had an assistant, Nakia, who's still with me to this day. And Nakia's way of training me was telling me that I had 3 questions. I could ask her 3 questions per day. And if I came in and said, "Hey, Nakia, how's your weekend?" She'd look at me and say, "Is that a question? Are you really asking me that with one of your questions?" And then
Oh
she
my
would
God.
just. So I had to figure it out. I was in the guidelines. I was just reading stuff, and I could call my mom. Like she wasn't in the office anymore, but I could call her if I had a tricky situation. But more than anything, I just kind of sink or swim and I figured it out. But the good thing was because my mother had been in the industry for a long time, I got introduced to agents that otherwise would have taken me a while to build up the courage to speak with. And I got to do deals and see things just looking over her shoulder that, would have taken me 5 years on my own to see all of those scenarios. And so by the time I was ready to quote unquote do this, I felt confident that I kind of understood what the heck I was doing.
Yeah. Well, that is a lucky. I mean, everybody's entrance into this industry is so different. And so it feels like you had a good experience getting in, right? You learned, the school of the hard knocks is what I like to say, because that's what was out there for us. If you were lucky enough to have a person in the business that you could call and you could ask those questions, I mean, that's really lucky, but that isn't the
Yeah.
standard for most people, right?
No,
Most people are
for
like,
sure.
what do I do?
Yeah.
So as in that first year, what was the hardest thing you felt like you had to overcome? And how did you get through it?
I mean, I think it's just not like there's no way to know what you're doing in a year. Like even if you do have an amazing first year, you still don't know what the heck you're doing. You haven't seen everything. And so for me, it was just recognizing that I was needing to be honest, like I was trying to do my best to build it in public and I would share with people. I dress the part though. Like now, 15 years in, I dress how I want. But I used to show up with a tie. I was square butt.
Yeah,
And that's what I thought I needed to do to present as somebody who was more professional.
yeah,
But what I realized was, there's just no way. There's no way I'm going to know everything. And so being honest and being clear about like, hey, I don't quite know the answer, but I'll tell you what, I am going to go figure that out and I'll get right back to you. I've kind of carried that through my whole career, candidly. Like I kind of paint the pain, even now, when
yeah,
something goes wrong, invariably something goes wrong with the transaction. I'm really communicative with the agents involved. I'll pick them up and call them and say, hey, we have an issue. Here's what it is. Here's the 5 different ways I'm trying to fix it. And I'm going to keep you in the loop as we move through. And so that type of honesty, I think people respond well to.
yeah,
You kind of bring them into your tent and you're willing to be like open. So that was kind of my tactic for dealing with the fact that I did not know what I was doing.
yeah. Well, just being honest and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I love that. At what point did you feel like you hit your stride? Like, were you
It took,
like, okay,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
here.
Honestly, it took like, I mean, 5 years. It took me about 5 years. Like, a little by little, I'd kind of seen things. But it took me a while to be able to have the confidence to be consultative with my clients, to be, what we talk about as an advisor. Like in the beginning, no, I was just quoting rates and looking up products and trying to get deals closed. And then after a while, I'd seen enough that I could explain um, what was happening and what to expect and what happens after they close. I'd seen enough of these cycles. I also bought my own home in that time, and that's really helpful, when you're talking to people about finance to be able to speak from, like, I bought a condo. I lived in that for a while. I moved out of it, pulled equity out with the home equity line of credit, and bought the home that we lived in. I did a remodel. So all of those things were allowed me to talk from experience and share
Yeah.
with the clients I was working with. And so that took time for
Yeah.
sure.
So you mentioned mortgage advisor, and on one of our other shows, I was talking about how you'll notice that different loan officers have different titles, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's a loan originator, but everybody
Yeah.
kind of tries to differentiate themselves with different like titles. Like there's loan boss lady, and there's the mortgage boss, and there's
Yeah.
senior mortgage originator. And what do you think that when did you put on the advisor? Like what were you originally when you started? And then when were you like, I'm an advisor?
I mean, I think some of it is just semantics, it's just like it sounds better.
Yeah. But it's
But
different when you're a
yeah,
mortgage advisor. Like you
for
said,
sure.
pulling equity out and doing,
Yeah.
those kind of
So
things.
so my big thing, if you follow me online, I talk all the time about the two home tango. That is the delicate dance of buying a home when you already own the home you live in. So it's basically buy before sell. That is what everybody in our marketplace knows me for. Now we do everything else, VA, FHA, blah, blah, blah. But the two home tango is the thing when somebody, hey, asks the question, hey, I have somebody that wants to buy before they sell. Like I hope in a real estate office, somebody chimes in and says, hey, call Brady. He's the one that does that. Now, it's not a program. It's not a product. It's a strategy, right? And so
Right.
the idea is I can help you figure out how to buy a home when you already own the home that you live in, whether that's consulting you that you should sell first because that's safest and cheapest. Maybe it's helping you figure out a way to get a bridge loan. Maybe it's pulling equity out of your home with the home equity line. Maybe there's options for you to buy with a traditional loan. Like all of that is not just a what's your rate today type of conversation. It's
Right.
really advising the consumer on what their options are and then helping them make the right decision for them because people are rightly terrified of having two mortgages at once or selling their home and then not being able to find the next home and being stuck in the middle with no place to go or being forced to buy a home that they're not really in love with because they need to get out of the home that they just, agreed to sell. Um, so I think that's the idea here is I want to be not only the person that helps you strategize around your purchase, but we talk a lot about a lender for life, right? We have a strategy after close where we will proactively reach out to our clients to walk them through a refinance. We cover their closing costs. And so when I'm having the initial consult with the client, I'm pre-framing them to see me as a person who's going to manage their debt. I'm not just here for this single transaction. I'll use the phrase like, I'm not here for the 15 to 20 days it takes to close this loan, but for the 15 to 20 years after
Yeah.
to help you manage this largest of debts that you may ever take out, right? And
Right.
so that is the framing is, look, if you want to shop around, call 10 different lenders and get quotes, then you're kind of missing the value because we are going to provide um, a set of services that help you figure out if it's right
Yeah.
to buy, how to win in a competitive bid situation, how to manage this debt even after you close. And so that's like the advisor part of it.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think it's important for new loan officers to find their niche, right? That isn't, I mean, that, like you said, that's not a product. That's something that you were like, oh, this, I'm going to put this together and that's what I'm going to be known for.
Yeah.
How did you, when did that, how did you put that together?
I just realized maybe 7 or 8 years ago that I liked working with those types of clients. I liked working with sellers or
Yeah.
homeowners, people that already bought a home. So typically they're going to have better credit because they understand how important credit is. They've been through the process and they either had an amazing experience with myself or their lender. And so they recognize what it is to have a really top-notch mortgage advisor,
Yeah.
or they had a crappy experience and they're ready to actually go through the process with somebody that's going to have a scripted process for them and walk them through and, give them both objective qualification, how high could they conceivably go, but also talk to them about subjective affordability and should they be buying at that
Right.
price point. So for me, it was realizing like I preferred to work with these types of buyers or, consumers um, over, and we still do a really good job. I think we do a good job with first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
But I feel a lot of people play there in that space.
Yeah.
And especially when you're starting out, a lot of people want to say, oh, I work with first-time homebuyers because there's not as much of a knowledge gap, or there is a knowledge gap, right? So the first-time homebuyer
Right.
doesn't know anything about loans. You at least have been doing this 6 months. You know something about loans. I better work
Yeah.
with a first-time homebuyer rather than somebody who's bought and sold 7 properties and they're going to recognize that I don't know as a new
Yeah.
loan originator, I don't know what I'm doing yet. So,
Right. Right. It's a good
um,
stepping stone. That is
yeah,
the natural transition. So if you are new to the industry and that is the people that you're talking to, you're probably right where you should be, right?
yeah,
And then
for
you
sure.
take that next step. So
I talk a lot about this idea of referral gravity. Is like, how do you make it, how do you create a situation where referrals come to you, where people know you as the right call
mhm.
when the time comes? And so remember, I had this terrible cold calling job. I don't want to cold call. I don't
Yeah.
cold call. I will reach out once I have a warm introduction, or I'll create avenues for people to signal their interest in working with me. But referral gravity to me, the first thing you need to do is like come up with your clarity. Who are you? When should people call you? So for me, it's buy before sell, and I talk about that all the time because I want to get those calls. And for somebody else, it might be working with tricky self-employed borrowers because you do
Right.
bank statement programs, or it might be first-time home buyers or condo deals, or we're helping seniors age in place, or it could be any number of things. But a lot of times we think we can't say that. Like I can't say, oh, I specialize in um, down payment assistance because then nobody will call me for the other stuff. That's not how it works.
Right.
right? What you do is you give yourself, if 1,000 real estate agents in my market know me as the two home tango as buy before you sell, there's 1,000 people that at some point might need me
Yeah.
versus all 1,000 of those think I do everything just like everybody else. Then I'm just the same as everybody else and they don't know when to call me. So
Yes.
I think
That
it's
is
important to have
that
that
is
day.
such good advice. Um, well, I want to go over into social media because I feel like that is, where I follow you the most and I see you every day in my feed, and you
Mhm.
just make it look so cool and so easy. It doesn't feel scripted. It doesn't feel forced. You're very authentic. And so I obviously you already said, like that didn't happen overnight, but can you
Right.
talk a little bit about where Pep Talk Mortgage came from, how you started it, and like, you know, where it's going, what we can learn from your experience?
Yeah. Yeah. So, as I mentioned, like, well, I didn't like cold calling, so I wanted to have something. But the real impetus for me was in 2020, my wife got a job, and I had got a new job that relocated us. So let me back up a step. I had built my business for the first 10 years being belly to belly, coffee dates, lunch appointments, asking for the business one to one, really providing excellent service, and then asking real estate agents if they would feel comfortable including me as somebody that they refer to their clients. And that worked great. I did really well that way. But then I'm, as you mentioned, I'm in Oakland, California. My wife got a job in Boston, Massachusetts. She's a college professor and she got this job. She's a badass. And so we had to go. Now,
Yeah.
I live in Oakland. My business is in Oakland. My wife's from Berkeley, which is the town next door. We live in Oakland, but 2/3 of the time I am in Boston, Massachusetts, which means I am not in the market. I'm not going to the broker opens. I am not seeing people at industry events. I fly back and forth a bit, but I
Yeah.
realize if I'm going to be gone 2/3 of the time, I need some way to, show up, right?
Right.
At the same time, I also noticed something too that some of the agents I trusted and respected were sending deals to other lenders, and it wasn't because they were better than me. It was because they were easier to find, easier to connect with, like kind of
Okay.
easier to understand. And so
Yeah.
that is when it clicked. I was like, I have to do something different because I'm moving. And I can see that there are people out there who are building this at scale, right? And so
Right.
um, that's when somebody, Laura, on my team said, "Look, you need to like get on social media." And so I was like, "I think you're right. I think it's time." So in
Were you
2020,
fighting it? Social media for
um,
a while?
yeah, I mean, I was like lurking. I had an Instagram. I didn't post, or if I
Yeah.
did, it was just like pictures of, my family or me and friends. But then I kind of recognized that I needed to do something to make myself more findable online. I needed to do something to show the real estate agents that I was still around, even when I wasn't. And so that was the impetus for me. And then, what happens is you just go to your phone and you just hit the red button and you hit record and then you just post it. And then nobody cares and nobody likes it in the beginning, but you get better with time. And
Yeah.
there's one thing I tell people, which is, if you post something and you end up being wrong, right? You say, "Oh, rates are going to come down," and they go up, or you feel just you can't sleep at night because you're so anxious about what you said. You phrased it incorrectly. You just
Yeah.
go back to the page and you just delete it and you move on. Like nobody cares. People think that everybody's checking for us when in reality we're all so busy with our own lives that nobody really cares that much.
Right.
Um, so for
Right.
me, it was just starting my first post. I literally held the camera up and I said, you know, I realize I have a lot to share. These conversations that I have every single day are informative for people, and I don't ever share it with my clients. And so I'm going to start posting and talking about what I do, and that's how I started. And that's 500 videos later or whatever.
How long have you been doing it now?
So 2022 is like
Okay.
when I really started posting consistently.
Yeah.
So yeah, almost 4 years, 3.5 years.
And you have 28,000 followers. That is insane, right? Is that like, did you have a number in your mind, or are you like,
No, no,
no?
no, I didn't. I
Yeah.
mean, I started off, I had like 800 people who were following me just from like the Facebook days, how it all migrated over to Instagram.
Yeah.
Um, and then for a long time, I had 900 and then 1,000. And
Yeah.
then I started like a year in, I started having some posts where I started to figure out like how to engineer it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Um, Candidly, the biggest thing that I've found is just sharing your wins and your losses, right? So um, I will share what happens. Like I will honestly tell people when something goes wrong. I'll talk about it, or I'll try to make sure that I'm being myself.
Yeah.
And it's tricky at times to not like uh, overdo it. Like you don't want to chase trends or like you know just lay your trauma out for others. But there
Yeah.
also is, there is some real benefit to kind of giving people a chance to understand who you are. You just kind of increase the surface area of your luck. If you share more things about you, that gives
Yeah.
people more chance to connect.
Those are definitely the posts I feel like that people engage with. And, is more like your family and like your personal. And I
Right.
think that, I don't know, 5, 10 years ago, there was a big push where everybody get on social media. And you had all these people who shouldn't be on social media, who you're like forcing to do videos. And you can clearly see on the video that it is forcing them to do the video. I think when you're new to the industry and social media is appropriate. I don't know if appropriate is the word, but when social media is part of your plan, your growth strategy, because it might not be everybody's
Right.
plan, right? You might not need to be there. So,
It
you
doesn't
know,
necessarily need to be social media. I think you should have at least one strategy that is one to many, where you do something and you reach out to a broader group. So again, I built my business one to one with coffee dates and lunches. But when it really took off and when I was able to start scaling a lot more, even through a tough market, was when I started doing one to many. So that could be an email that you send out. That could be a podcast. That could be an in-person event that you do with your realtor partners. You could do first-time homebuyer seminars. There's so many different ways to do something, one to many. Social media is really easy because that's where everyone is. That's where
yeah,
people are. They're already on their phone all day,
yeah,
and it's free, which is pretty cool.
yeah,
Um, but like do something. People's BS meters are high
yeah,
and they already know when you're selling. So don't sell. Just teach, share, give freely. Don't ask for business. Let that connection build. And then, the big thing is relatable beats impressive. Like you don't have to talk about how great you are. If you share relatable content and stories, like every
yeah,
single day you have things going on. If you're new to the industry, don't talk like you're an expert. Don't create expert content because you're not an expert and people will see through it. Create content that is about the journey of becoming a real estate or mortgage lender. That's really relatable. People get that, and you can share your L's and like, oh my God, I just totally flubbed it with this client, and here's what I learned, and I wish I had said this, and that
yeah,
stuff is great. Like people want to see you kind of build in public. You see these YouTube pages and Instagram pages where they're like, follow me as I, open a cafe in 30 days. And then you're like bought in. So when the cafe opens, there's a line out the door, right?
right,
Because
right. You're
people
like, I have
are
to
there.
go
So
there. I know them.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, and that was kind of the question I wanted to ask you, which I think is relevant, is who is your audience? Because it seems
Mm,
like everybody, right? It's not just buyers. It's everybody. Everybody can kind of then get in on your business. It really opens it up because I'm sure you have followers that aren't even in mortgage. They're just like, Brady's cool and I learn things and I just get smarter. So when
yeah.
you're doing it, who are you thinking of as your audience?
Great. That's such a great point. It's hard. I have two audiences, kind of. The first is the consumer, right? If I'm trying to get business from what I'm posting down the road or build trust at scale, the consumer is the one who's mainly out there. And then the other audience for me, obviously, is the B2B, the business to business part of it, is the real estate agent. That's when I initially started.
Yeah,
I was just trying to stay in front of the real estate agents in my market so that they could see and I could, kind of demonstrate to them, I could anchor them, I could program them as to when to think of me.
yeah,
And so the real estate agent is the other part of it. But getting clear on who your audience is or who your ideal client is really important, because then it allows you to share content that reminds them that you are the solution, right? And so
Right.
I'll often talk about the two Home Tango and say, I'll tell stories. Hey, I had this situation. This client had went to Wells Fargo. They told them they had to sell first. We were able to come up with a strategy so they could buy before they sell. It ended up, in the real estate agent getting two commissions because they got to buy a home and sell a home. The buyer got in there without having to move their family twice or the risk of, not finding the right property. And then I kind of explain how I helped in that. But the story is more about the consumer or about the real
Yeah.
estate agent because that's how people see themselves.
Yeah.
Um, you know, the reason why the social media thing feels icky is because most people treat it that way. They treat it like a commercial, right? Like, call
Yeah.
me and I can help you with, it's not you don't want to, they don't want to create a commercial. You want to just share valuable insights and
Right.
hopefully interesting stories that will keep people and help them connect with you.
Right. If you're going to do a commercial, do a commercial, own a
Yeah,
commercial, do that.
yeah,
Don't, yeah.
exactly.
It's interesting to me. Do you get referrals and clients through your social media?
I do. It's hard to quantify though, because it doesn't always come that way. Like
Yeah.
I have definitely closed some transactions from people who reached out to me in the DMs or reached out to me and let me know that they found me online. But it's almost like an ecosystem.
Yeah.
Like people don't necessarily like get captured in a funnel and then just immediately go to work with you. You think
Right.
about the way that you shop now. You don't necessarily just go to the mall and buy a couch. You kind of
Right.
like look at the couch. You might watch a YouTube video. You might ask a friend. You might, do all of this research. And then after you've had a bunch of different touch points, then you finally go to the mall to buy it after you've done all of the stuff. So the social media thing speaks to one aspect of it.
Yeah.
I also do like a weekly newsletter. I do. I have, a ton of 5-star reviews for the last 10 years. I've been really diligent about asking clients to leave reviews. So we have, like 500 on Google and 400 on Yelp and a couple hundred on Zillow. Um, and so it's like a whole ecosystem of like people just bouncing around and kind of being able to get acquainted. And then when they're
Yeah.
ready, they'll raise their hand and say, okay, I want to work with you, or I'm ready to refinance, or here's what I'm thinking, or I've referred a friend to you.
Well, I love that because that is my next question to you is about your 1,000 5-star reviews. If you are not waking up in the morning and just celebrating that and patting yourself on the back, that's insane. And I think, again, as a new loan officer, you don't have any reviews, right?
Right.
And you can get your friends to do reviews or whatever. But I just think it's important that you start somewhere. And then for you, you said 10 years ago, you started pushing it. Where
Yeah.
in the process are you bringing it up with your borrowers? Or are you not bringing it up? You just send it.
I typically ask for the reviews at the end of the transaction once we close. I have seen strategies where you ask early on, like, once they get pre-approved, you reach out to them and say, hey, the script is like out of 10, how many stars out of 5 do you give us? And if they give you 5 stars, oh my God, that's amazing. Will you leave me a review? Or if they don't, you say, how can we provide better service? So that's not what I do. What we do basically is when the loan actually funds and closes, the client gets their keys or they've completed the refinance, we send them an email, we congratulate them, and we offer them the opportunity to select a charity of their choosing. We donate $250 to the charity that they select. And to date, we've donated like over $350,000 doing this. We've done it for 7 years. And so when we do that, they will share back like, oh, I want you to donate to this organization because my father had, leukemia, or my kid really loves dogs. And so I want you to donate to that. So we learn a little bit more about them. And then in that email, we also say, if you have a moment, can you go in and leave us a review? If they do it, and many of them do, great. We make the donation, we send them back confirmation we made it, and we say, I'm so glad we could support this organization together. If they don't leave us a review, when we make the donation, we will reply back and say, hey, we made a donation to this organization. Thank you so much. Really glad we could do this. If you haven't already, can you go in and leave us this review? Because the second time you ask, you tie it to the thing that we just did for them,
Right.
then they feel like they owe you something and they'll go and do it. So, we kind of bring it up at the end when all the feelings are good.
Yeah.
They're ready to sing our praises. We've just exceeded their expectations. And then there's like this one other little extra that we offer, which we don't even tell them about, but just a
Yeah.
charity thing at the end.
I love it. And that really was kind of my next question too, is how did you decide to do that? I mean, when you listen to your whole story, it is very intentional. I don't feel like you are doing anything in your business that you have not very much thought out. It seems like a very structured process. But
Yeah.
how did you, when were you like, I'm going to do this charity thing? That is amazing.
I think we started in 2000, what, damn it, maybe it's been 10 years. It started in 2017. So 9 years.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a, even before I started doing social media, I've always been a bit of a marketing and sales nerd. So like, I don't ever read fiction. I always read nonfiction. I like history and I like learning more about how other people sell and how they run businesses. And I remember maybe on a podcast, somebody mentioned it, the idea that we give our clients a doormat or a bottle of champagne and we don't know if they even want a doormat or they drink champagne. And so the suggestion was to just get to know your clients better and maybe do something that would feel impactful for them.
Yeah.
I've always been somebody who thinks about giving back. And so this was what we came up with was, hey, let's just ask them what would be the right charity for them for us to support in their name, and then we'll go ahead and do it. So um, we tested it out. I mean, people talk about it. People even before they meet with us, they'll reach out and say, "Hey, my friend recommended we, get pre-approved with you. And oh, by the way, when we close, we want to donate to this." Like they'll bring it up before because they've
Uh,
already heard about it.
that I mean that is the takeaway. But obviously you said, 9 years. So this isn't something that somebody brand new to the industry is going to do, but this is on your 5 to 10 year map to build something like this in, right? Because in the beginning, every penny counts, right? You're just trying to survive. So don't come
Right.
into it thinking like I'm going to do this or do. I mean, it's up to you.
Or you
But
can. I mean, you're doing it on closed transactions. You're doing it on deals that actually funded and closed. And so
right.
whether it's, I mean, we do 250,
Yeah.
but you could do 50, you could do 100. I mean, the idea is just the thought and people will appreciate it. And having,
Yeah.
so you mentioned like how to, in the intentionality part. I'm very big on a scripted process. We have a very scripted process. The clients should get the same experience. And it's not that we want it to be robotic, but I want them to feel that it's scripted because when it's ad hoc, it feels like, I don't know, like there's just papers flying everywhere, your hair is all disheveled, you don't know what you're doing. But when it's like, no, here's how we operate, get with it, or or don't. If we're not the right fit, that's fine.
Yeah.
People like feel reassured by that. We're going through the safety checks before the airplane takes off. Like we've done everything to make sure we're gonna land this thing safely.
Yeah. No, I think I think what you've built is amazing. And I do, in closing, I want to talk a little
Yeah.
bit about um, two things. Number one, I want to highlight that you're a dad, and I don't want to be a host that only asks moms about how they balance it, because you are obviously in on the two sides of America. So I imagine that adds another level. But how do you, balance family life and your career?
Yeah. Um, I'm 44. My little guy's 4. So I had a whole life before
Me too.
we had Lennox. And so I don't feel like I want or need to do much more than the work. I enjoy, riding my bike. I do a lot of cycling. I try to work out, when I can. And then I get to spend time with my family. And we have this weird thing where I spend 2/3 of my time in my office in Boston. So in some ways, it can feel a little suffocating because I wake up early and do whatever I need to do. And then we get Lennox ready, drop him off at school. And then I come back and work. I will typically work until 4 or so, East Coast time. And then I hop off. We do dinner, bath time, bedtime. And then I hop back on the computer, usually 7 o'clock Boston time or 8 o'clock Boston time to clear email, do my evening calls or follow up. So I do feel like at times that not that I work from home, but that I actually live at work. Like it's just
Yeah.
all around me.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the challenge. But when I travel back to California, I usually then have like these spurts where it's like intense activity because I'm there for 4 days. I'll fly in on a Sunday, fly out on Friday night, and I just have a bunch of stuff lined up. Usually when I go during the school year, it's not with my family. So I just have like these big, blocks of trying to do everything in the world.
Yeah.
So I have a great partner, Sarah's, we're just like, it's just us. We have
Yeah.
friends here in Boston, but it's kind of, when our family's not here, it's kind of just us. And we are doing this little adventure together as a family for now.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that so much. And I imagine that, you know, in those situations, I mean, it's hard, but having this job, I feel like allows a little bit of that freedom. I mean, maybe not
Yes.
freedom isn't the word, but it allows you to, I want to say almost like Gumby, like flexible. Like you
Yeah.
can say, I'm going to be here at this time. I'm going to make the baseball game. I'm going to drop my kid off, or I'm going to pick up. And I think that's why a lot of people get into this business, because it is a selling point, right? We can do those things, but we also work on weekends and weeknights and, sometimes, so I think it's good just all around for us all to kind of share how we're balancing. I feel like a lot of times we just ask the ladies, and I'm like, there's dads out there that are doing a
Yeah.
good job too. So,
Thank you.
uh, what was the last thing I wanted to tell you? Oh, okay. So we're gonna close out, and I like to close out really with something that we can share with the new to industry loan officers, motivational talk, one thing that they could do or something they shouldn't do. Maybe you're like, don't do this. So if there's anything you want to say to those brave folks that are coming here to join us on this side.
Um, I would say the best thing that you can do is kind of just get ready to work extremely hard, and just flood the zone with effort. Like the only thing you can control is your effort, and it does not matter how you do it. We've talked a little bit about how I have done it, but I've worked with and seen across my time in this industry, I've seen people that do it every which way, from mortgage originators to real estate agents. There's no specific way that you have to do it, but everybody who's been successful, I think, does a lot of what it is that they do. So if you are the person that wants to wake up and call 20 real estate agents, then just do that. And when it does not pay dividends for the first week and month and 6 months, just keep doing it. If you think you're going to build a brand online through social media, it will take time, but you just have to keep doing it. It's the only thing that you can control. And the reason why most people don't achieve at the level they want is because they do it for a while and then they're like, oh, this does not work. Well, it's not going to work right away, but you have to do just so much volume that it would be incomprehensible for you not to be successful. And that's where, like for me, um, the thing that I've always found success in is just working really hard and making myself do the work. It's not sexy, but and I'm not like one of these coach bros who's like, yeah, just wake up and do the cold plunge and then journal. Like I don't, it doesn't matter to me how you do it. It's not
Yeah.
the mindset piece is more just around just doing something and being consistent and continuing to do it over and over. And I promise you it will pay off. And if you do enough of it and it doesn't pay off, then just switch to doing something else because you're probably just doing the wrong thing. But eventually it'll work.
Yeah. No, I think it is good advice. I think it is really important that they know it is hard.
Yeah.
It's even now, I'm sure it's still hard, and more than you did 15 years ago, but sticking
Yeah.
with it and finding community. I think, for a lot of new people, you feel like you don't know anything, or nobody's going to listen to you, and just find your community. We are here as a company to support new to the industry loan officers. There's people online, there's people in your community, so go to the meetings, the realtor meetings, go talk to a lender in your community, go find a mentor, go find a coach. I mean, there's people out there, and we are excited to welcome you. Brady, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule. Be sure to follow Brady on Instagram at Pep Talk Mortgage. I'm going to put all of his links in the comment section. So be sure, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss episodes. And we'll see you on the next Combos with Mortgage Peeps.